All right, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, whenever you're watching, and welcome back to Dream Building 101. I am your host, Dr. Ebony Potts. I am also the author of Next Exit, Your Destiny, Taking the Road Towards the Life of Your Dreams. And if you like what you see, please go ahead and subscribe, like, and share this video so that you can watch and share and make sure that you are getting on the road to your best life and being inspired and motivated. So today, I have the pleasure of interviewing a young lady that I have known for quite a long time. Back in high school, we probably were best known as Frickin' Frack. We were in all kinds of choruses, and a very talented young lady. Became in love with language, and that helped kind of shape her path. But I'm going to let her tell more about herself in just a moment. But I knew her back then as Nicole Talmadge, but she is Nicole Rameau. And how are you today, ma'am? How are you?
I'm doing really great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you and happy to have you here. So I'm going to let you tell everyone who you are, what you do, and what your path was. But we can start off by telling who you are and what you do at this current time.
Sure. I am the Assistant Director of Programs at the National Foreign Language Center, which is a unit of the College of Arts and Humanities at the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland. I've been working at the university for about 15 years now, and most of the work that I do with the university currently focuses on a program called StarTalk, which is a world language education program that gives grant money to institutions across the United States of America to provide summer language learning opportunities for students from kindergarten through undergraduate school at a very low cost, and also provides world language teacher training for teachers of world languages. I've always been really passionate about language. My second language is French, and I also speak Spanish, and I have a little bit of Portuguese and Italian. But the StarTalk program that I focus on now is focused on less commonly taught critical need languages like Chinese, Arabic, Hindi, Urdu, Russian, Turkish, Swahili, Korean, Persian. So those languages that are spoken in a lot of the world but don't tend to be taught in the United States. So the focus is really to build up the workforce in the United States and build up cultural competency among people in the United States. So yeah, that's what I do now, and I love it. It's a great place to work, and really inspiring work for me.
That's great. That's great. I know that, when we were in high school, you were really passionate about learning French, and I'm glad that that's taking you down a path of something that you really enjoy. So how did you end up where you were? I know that you went to the University of Maryland. Once you graduated, how did you end up where you are now?
So I went to the University of Maryland, studied French language and literature. But at the time, I knew that I did not want to be a teacher. That really wasn't one of my stronger interests. And I was curious as to, okay, how can I use my language and do something that I'm really interested in? And I discovered a fellowship program that no longer exists now, but it was called the International Institute for Public Policy. And it was for students of color to become interested in international affairs, international relations, and international politics. And I thought that maybe I would be interested in working in Africa or some of the countries that speak French but may not be France. And so after I had completed, it was actually my sophomore year of college, I started that program, and during the summers I went to intensive institutes where we focused on political science and particularly international relations. And then I studied abroad for a year in France to really improve my French language speaking and comprehension skills. And then after I finished undergraduate school, I went to graduate school at Syracuse University at the Maxwell School of Public Policy, and I studied international relations. And my fellowship was still going on at that point, took you all the way through graduate school, so it helped me to afford graduate school. It was a really great program. And when I finished graduate school, I had a master's degree in international relations with a focus on intercultural communication and negotiations and Africa studies. And I went straight to working at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars in Washington, D.C. For the Burundi Leadership Training Program. And there I worked back and forth for almost 3 years in Burundi as a program assistant and translator interpreter on a program.
Where is Burundi? Where is that?
So, very good point. So Burundi is in Central Africa. Okay. It is right by Rwanda. And at the time, I know that there's a lot of press about the Rwandan genocide, which is horrible. It happened in the early 90s. That genocide happened in Burundi and Rwanda at the same time. It's the same situation, the kind of linchpin event that kicked off that horrible period in Burundian and Rwandan history was when both the Burundian and the Rwandan presidents' planes were shot down and they died. And that kind of kicked off everything. It was kind of a match of flame. But anyway, so Burundi is there. Some might say it's Central, or you could even say it's East African. But I was there. They were colonized very long ago by Belgium, so the language there is French. And so I did translation and interpretation. I worked on a program that focused on building negotiation skills for Burundians who were in leadership positions and in different factions of the government, different factions of societies. And it was a great place to work for your first job right out of graduate school.
That sounds pretty exciting.
It was exactly all the things that I thought that I wanted. And as I was there and I was learning about how politics works more practically and got to see kind of the constant political machinations, I just realized I don't have the stomach for this. I am not a politics person. I spent more of my time in Burundi trying to learn Kirundi, which is the language of Burundi, and trying to learn more about Burundian culture and history. That interested me more than politics, which, trust me, no matter where you are on earth, is basically the same. And so I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. And despite it being probably one of the most life-changing, experiences of my life, I just said, this isn't what I want to do. I want to focus on culture. I want to focus on education. I want to focus on language. And that is when I found the job at the National Foreign Language Center, and I moved there and I've been there ever since. And I'm happy with what I do. And I get to travel a lot in the United States with the Star Talk program, visiting different language learning communities across the country. And it's really inspiring to see young people attempting to learn what are considered to us difficult languages, and to embrace and learn about those different cultures and learn about different people and how we can all kind of get along and how we all have these commonalities.
That's great. I mean, I think, one of the reasons that I wanted to speak with you is because a lot of students who go into language feel pigeonholed. And as you spoke initially about, okay, I don't want to be a teacher, because really, if someone goes into language, that's initially what you're going to be in education, you're going to be a teacher. And there's so many other avenues that people can go into if they're interested in language. So what do you love about what you do? And what are some of the most challenging aspects of what you do?
Well, I mean, I definitely love seeing the fruit of my labors, which I think a lot of people can say in a lot of different domains of work, but a lot of the stuff that I do is behind the scenes. So I do a lot of setting up programs, working with people who are developing curricula and lesson plans and materials and training and all of that. And it sometimes can be difficult to see beyond the things that you're developing and the things that you're working on. So the thing that I really like to do, which I haven't been able to do obviously in 2020 with COVID-19, but is to travel to those programs and actually see all of the best practices that we've been putting together, all of the training that we've been putting together, all of the work that we've been doing to see actual students learning the language, being thrilled with how they're actually able to hold a conversation in a Chinese restaurant with someone who works at the restaurant because they've gone out for a cultural experience on a field trip, and they come back and they talk to the observation team about how excited they were, how they spent 2 years learning in the classroom Arabic, and they felt like they couldn't say anything, but then they were able to spend this intensive summer and they can actually have a conversation with their grandmother in another country when they're talking over Skype or something like that. I mean, those kinds of things are really inspiring, and seeing that kind of that light bulb turn on for students and even for teachers as well, who we have. One of our principles is that no matter what the level of the language, you should be speaking in the target language most of the time. Like 90% of the time, you should be speaking in Chinese, even if it's a Chinese 0 class, like no one spoke it before. And you talk to a lot of the teachers who haven't learned the methods that we use, and they're like, no, that's absolutely impossible. Of course I have to speak English. You know, I can't teach this to them. You know, this is my native language, and it's just not possible. And when you see their attitudes change and you see them saying, oh my gosh, I can actually do this, and they learn so much faster, and it's really working.
So what would you say is the most challenging portion of your job?
Well, I can say overall, one of the things that's difficult is that world language education is not a core subject. It is not a central part of any of the most recent education legislation that Congress has put forth and passed. In most places, it's often on the chopping block in terms of something that school systems have to make a decision about whether they can afford world language teachers and things like that. So that advocacy piece is something that my center works a lot on. There is a lobbying group that works with world language education and trying to get Congress to support it. So it is kind of difficult when we are providing these summer experiences to students and they have nowhere to go with it after the summer's over because their local district doesn't teach any language, let alone Chinese or, Swahili or something like that.
Sick of sitting at your job, daydreaming about the life that you would have if you'd won that big jackpot? Do you want to design a life for yourself that you don't need to take a vacation from? Do you have a vision for your life that you just don't know how to make a reality? Next Exit Your Destiny is a witty, comical, yet straightforward guide that gives you common sense, easy to follow steps to make the life you dream of the life that you live. Get off of Unfulfilled Street, Unhappy Way, and Sunday Night Blues Boulevard and take the next exit towards your destiny today.
Also, just the fact that, again, in education, world language is not STEM. It's harder to secure funding to run these types of programs. There's not a whole bunch of funding swimming around where you can apply and run these types of wonderful programs for students. So it's definitely a lot of work to pull all that stuff together. So yeah, I'd say that those are some of the challenges of the work. Yeah.
I think that, cultural competency is something that's lacking, especially here in the United States. And it's very difficult to become sensitive, knowledgeable, and in general, culturally competent about those around you in a country that we call the melting pot when we don't encourage people, students in general, to learn the language of other individuals. I understand, again, this is not to poke at anyone that feels as though, English. I understand that. But again, we have a lot more in common than we have differences. And a lot of the world events, things that happen around us, especially in 2020, And I mean, and again, beyond, all stem from a lack of understanding of your neighbor, a lack of understanding of the people around you. And the more you get out and are able to communicate with those around you, the more you will find that we have in common. So, when you and I were growing up, when we were in middle school, it was mandatory that we kind of did a round robin of languages. You had to, I think it was in 6th grade, you had to take, I took German, I took Italian, I took French, and I took Spanish for like a portion of the year. And then at the end, you had to pick one of those languages, and you had to concentrate on that language pretty much until you graduated. You could switch, but you had to have a language. And that is not the case. My son is in middle school and he took Spanish, but he took it online. Like there was no language offered at his school in middle school, and he won't actually have the option to, I think he has the option to take language next year in 8th grade, but it's an option. Like it's not mandatory that he takes a language until he goes to high school. So I think that, again, focusing on language communication, anything that we can to, again, realize that we have more in common with our neighbors, learn about different cultures is beneficial to us as a society as a whole. It's just my opinion. And I'm sure you probably agree as well.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and, we did a study recently, our research team did a study where we looked into what corporate America and what the government is looking for in their workforce. And like 100% of the time, having a language puts you head and shoulders above anyone you're competing with for a job. In fact, StarTalk, our program, is funded by the National Security Agency. The entire United States intelligence community really needs linguists. They need people who speak these languages, and they need American citizens who speak these languages as well. So, there is a deficit in the United States of people who speak different languages and who can work in those languages. And not only the government's looking for those people, but also corporate America is looking for those people who speak those languages, because business is done on a global scale now. It's not a local thing anymore.
Tell us about a challenge that you faced on your path. If you've had kind of like a turn back moment, I talk about those in my book. I think everyone has those at some point. And how did you overcome it?
I mean, I think it was when I was working at the Woodrow Wilson Center, and I realized I didn't like politics. I said, oh my gosh, I've spent all of my graduate education and this fellowship and all this time and money and effort, and I'm like, I don't like this. What am I going to do? And I honestly applied for the job at the National Foreign Language Center that had nothing to do with what I wanted to do. It was like, I don't remember. I think it was doing business development or something like that. I just wanted to get my foot in the door and be there. And I started working at the center, and I was working, and I wasn't enjoying what I was doing when I first started working there. And some lucky things happened. Like we ended up getting funding for this new project, and then the person who was supposed to head the project ended up getting a job elsewhere. And then there I ended up being able to manage this project, and that is what really helped me. So that is one challenge I think I had. I think another challenge that I had, and this is just as a mother, and as someone who has spent her whole life, and maybe Ebony, you also have felt this as well, but as a Black woman and as a Black professional woman, there's this constant, inner pressure to be ambitious. Like I'm going to level up. You know what I mean? Like there's this, you want to level up. You want to like, okay, now I have this job. Now I gotta start working so I can get the next level up. Now I got to start working so I can get the next level up and the next level up, because there's this, I don't know what it is. Like it's an inner, I'm not competing with another person, but I had this feeling that, I need to rise above and be the very best I can be. And I feel like I've done that, but I have my kids, and I'm trying to spend as much time with them and raise them and everything, which I know that you're doing the same with your kids, who are so adorable. I following their beautiful pictures on Facebook and stuff. And then I said, oh my gosh, I'm not spending as much time with my kids because I've become kind of beholden to my ambition. And I had to take a seat back and think to myself, are you happy? Are you happy with where you are right now? Like, do you need to go? Do you need to level up? Or are you good where you are? Are you happy? Are you enjoying the work that you're doing? Are you enjoying that you're able to spend time with your family? And I had this revelation, like, I don't need to level up. I'm quite happy where I am right now. And I don't need to like scramble and get to the next level and the next level. And it's okay to just be where I am and be happy with the life that I've been so fortunate that God has blessed me to have, and I don't need to be constantly leveling up. So I don't know if that was a challenge, kind of maybe an inner challenge, but it certainly was like a eye opener for me. Like, it's okay to not be like, okay, now I need to be the president of the University of Maryland. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stop.
Right. Take a chill pill. It's okay. I mean, I'm nodding and smiling and trying to be quiet so this camera doesn't flip over to me the whole time I'm talking, because and my book is about that. Like, I was driving down the road one day and I looked to the left, I looked to the right. I realized, like, yet again, I'm going to be late because Atlanta traffic is completely insane and unpredictable in a way in which, unless you've lived in Atlanta, I can't really explain. The things that you would say to someone who's going to be late, like, oh, just leave earlier, or, it does not apply. Like, it just doesn't apply to that area. And again, unless you've been on 75, a 6-7 lane highway where you would think that there should never be an issue because of the amount of lanes, but anywho, I digress. So I look to the left and I look to the right. I'm like, my heart is racing and I'm just like, oh my God, there's people waiting for me. And I had the same, I'm like, this, for lack of a better word, this sucks. Like, I'm upset. The person to the left of me looks miserable. The person to the right of me looks miserable. The person to the left of me looks miserable. And I'm just like, this is not it. Like, this is just not, this is not what I want. I had to make some decisions. I had to do some soul searching. And again, what exactly are you chasing? What are you looking for? And then you have to have those kind of questions with yourself, honestly. And then once you figure it out, if that means changing your direction like you did, I have a chapter on fear as well, because usually that enters in if you have children and you have responsibilities and things of that nature. You can't just go, okay, well, I like flipping burgers, so I'm just gonna, again, this is not to say anything about anyone that does any particular job, because all jobs are valuable. But, to make a decision that you're going to flip your life upside down is not something that, as an adult with responsibility and people who are depending on you, that most people take lightly. So, I definitely understand where you're going, but at some point, whether you're just entering into the workforce or whether you are already in the workforce, all of us have to have those moments, and you got to be honest with yourself. And you have to choose whether you're going to go over or go after what fulfills you, makes you happy, makes you feel whole, makes you feel sane, especially women. And whether you're going to go in that direction or whether you're going to keep going, whether you're going to keep leveling up, as you say, or chasing something that perhaps may not be necessarily what is going to fulfill you in the long run. Tell us something besides what we just talked about, a recent life lesson that you learned or had to grapple with in the last 2 to 3 years.
Well, I mean, haven't we all learned so many lessons during this quarantine period? So I'm just going to go with that. I think, I mean, you know me, and I know I was this way in high school too, but I'm pretty controlling of my environment. Like, I want things just how I want them, and I want it how I want it, And I've had to let go of that in many ways. Like, I had to let go of being able to sit at my desk and do my job uninterrupted by my children every day of my workday, because we're all here. I've had to let go of my kitchen being clean period, because
at all, ever.
you know what I mean? Because we're all here. We're all here. There's always
Right.
someone in the kitchen. There's always someone leaving dishes in the sink and crumbs on the counter, you know? Like, I've had to learn to say, okay, it's okay that your son wants to come in here and show you what he's just working on in his social studies class while you're in the middle of trying to write a paper or something like that. Or it's okay that your daughter came in here because she has a question about her math and you're in the middle of working on a budget. Like, you just, you know, I've had to learn to roll with those things. And if I need to put in a little extra time to be able to finish something, then I'll do that. But at the beginning, man, I was strung so tight because I just said, I can't do this. This is impossible. Like, I just had to learn a new way of operating and being able to let go a little bit. Let go.
If you could tell someone out there who just might be getting on their path towards their best life, what would you say to them?
Don't be too rigid. Be flexible. Be flexible. Realize that what you think your end goal is today may not be the same. Tomorrow it may not be the same. Like, the goal may change in a little while, and just be flexible and reflect, you know, reflect along the path and be flexible, because it's not always a straight line, you know?
Yeah, it's never a straight line. I mean, at least not in my experience. It's never really a straight line. We're like, okay, we're here. We're going to go there. You're going to zigzag and go around curves, and, you know, you're going to stop. You might have to jump over some hurdles. You might do some back steps. But it's okay. Like, it's all right. Take a deep breath. And if that is what you're meant to do, if it's something that, you know, you're passionate about, you'll get there. It's okay if it takes, you know, a year longer, a half a year longer, 6 years longer, whatever it is. Just keep progressing towards that goal. Where can anyone who is watching get in contact with you, learn more about your program? What's web address, Instagram, business address, any of that?
So you can learn more about the StarTalk program at startalk.umd.edu. That's University of Maryland, the umd.edu. And you can learn more about the National Foreign Language Center at nflc.umd.edu. That's N for national, F for foreign, L for language, C for center.umd.edu. And my information is on both of those websites in multiple places, so you can find me there.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm glad that, again, that you are still doing something that I know that you're passionate about and have been for a long time. Mm-hmm. And for those of you watching, if you like what you saw, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and share this video. And if you haven't picked up your own copy of Next Exit, Your Destiny, Taking the Road Towards the Life of Your Dreams, all of that information on how to do so will be in the description box, as well as the information that Ms. Rameau talked about during the video. So again, thank you everyone for watching. And I hope that you are all working to get on your own path to find fulfillment for yourself. And I wish you the best, and God bless. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.